This week's episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast is driven by Cornerstone Gundog Academy. CGA is the world's most comprehensive online gun dog training resource. They've got over 160 instructional videos that includes everything that you need to take a 7-week-old puppy to a finished gun dog. Visit cornerstonegundogacademy.com to sign up for the free preview module and begin your training journey today. Cornerstone Gundog Academy, the most advanced gun dog training resource on the web. You are listening to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast, episode 146. This week on the show, we've got story time with Uncle Joe. We welcome Dan's brother Joe back to the show as Dan's out of town on vacation. All right, welcome to episode 146 of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast, where your on-demand audio source for all things waterfowl and waterfowl hunting. This week brought to you by Lifetime Decoys, new for 2019. Lifetime Decoys Flex Float Mallard decoys set the new standard for quality and durability in the waterfowl decoys. An EVA foam, open bottom construction combined with the patent pending dual flow swim keel system allows for more movement with less wind, the ability to sit flat on ice and dirt, and virtually indestructible design, which can be shot or otherwise punctured and still float. Each decoy only weighs 11 ounces with the self-righting keel weights removed, or 19 ounces with the weights installed. Check them out today at lifetimedecoys.com. Also, thank you to Gunner Kennels for their support of this week's episode. Engineered for your dog, designed for travel, and built for your peace of mind. The G1 Kennel has set a new industry standard and put Gunner Kennels in a category all its own. They were started to protect your pet, and it continues to be at the center of everything that they do, and they're dedicated to building the best and safest pet travel crate on the market today, because man's best friend deserves man's best kennel. Check out their G1 series of kennels and accessories.com. Also, thank you to Eukanuba. Out in the field, how you've prepared determines how you'll perform. With a balanced fat and protein to support peak condition, Eukanuba Premium Performance Dog Food enhances strength, energy, and endurance. So when the payment ends, truck doors swing open, you and your dogs are ready for anything, strong, focused, and ready for anything. That's Eukanuba Dog. Also, thank you to Lucky Duck. About the only creature that they can't deceive is you. Lucky Duck's more than a brand, it's a lifestyle built around the subtle art of critter deception. So while you're focused on the business end of your shotgun or rifle, know that they're completely focused on what matters most, you. So whether you're in the duck blind, dove field, on a predator stand, or chasing turkeys, they're confident that their products will help you succeed. So check out their full lineup at luckyduck.com and keep up with their latest news by following them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All right. Well, this week, a little bit different episode. If you're new to the show, my typical co-host Dan is not going to be here this week. He's out of town with his family on vacation. So we've welcomed his brother Joe back to the program. I was down at Joe's place coaching baseball with him over this past weekend. So we took the time to sit down and just sort of talk a little bit about hunting. We talk a little bit about sort of his relocation to that area and how he's gone about finding new places to hunt, new people to hunt with, and things like that. And we just share a few stories and kind of talk a little bit about everything, kind of nothing in particular, but just share a few stories and just kind of have a good time catching up. So without further ado, why don't we go ahead and welcome Uncle Joe Harushka to the show for a little story time. All right, this week I am fortunate enough to be joined by Mr. Joe Harushka, none other than the brother of one Dan Harushka. What's up, Joe?
Not much, man. Self-proclaimed comic over here.
We've definitely been sharing a few laughs here this weekend as I'm in town, staying with you, coaching some baseball with the Keystone State Bombers. And we got a tournament today that we're going to head out here in a little bit. Wanted to get a little podcast done here before we do that. And we're calling this episode Story Time with Uncle Joe because over the years, between Dan and myself, you've been along with us on a bunch of different hunts. And not only that, you've grew up hunting just kind of like Dan and I. You've relocated to another area. You've sort of gone through a lot of the the process that a lot of guys that listen to this show have gone through and trying to find new places to hunt, network with new people, sort of overcoming the challenges of integrating yourself into other groups to try to sort of get your foot under you and an opportunity to spend more time in the field. So we'll dive a little bit into that this week, I think, and share a little bit of your insight and talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I do have to bring up, since you brought up the coaching stuff. It's sometimes a little inappropriate when you're on first base and geese fly over and you're out there.
So I did do that. We
shooting geese with your fingers in the middle of mid game.
I finger banged a few geese during the game, and it was a 4-pack that came over center field and lit up in a spot back behind us. And I called the shot. You saw what was going on.
They came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I saw them, and I was waiting for it, actually.
Well, I'm glad I didn't let you down.
Yeah. I expect nothing less. I mean, they were low coming over.
Yeah, they were in range, no doubt.
You could see the feet and everything.
Uh-huh.
So it was a good shot call there.
That was funny.
It was pretty interesting, but I'm glad to be back on the show here, and really wanted to come on and critique what you guys do.
Appreciate it.
No, but just kind of speak on behalf of your listeners, I think, and I consider myself lucky when it comes to being able to do this, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that listens to the podcast and just goes, man, what about this? I'd like to talk about this.
Yeah.
Or hey, maybe I want to ask a question, or bring something up, add comments, or do whatever. Just on behalf of everybody, it's good to be here. So
yeah, no, I like. It's interesting having you on, because when you were on with Dan, I wasn't available for that interview, or you were at home, and you guys just, late night decided to pump one out or whatever. And we got a lot of feedback on that episode that people really liked that. And it's fun getting, you on as a guest, because you know us better, obviously, than some of the other guys, that we have on the show. Those guys know us just through hunting. But, of course, like our relationship, for example, started as high school rivals, in sports, and, has evolved over time into, a friendship now, which is just funny. And, we spent a lot of time talking about that this week, about how you couldn't stand our high schools, how competing against our schools specifically was one of the things you kind of lived for at that time. And, now it comes full circle. And you were mentioning how when Dan and I first started hanging out, and, Dan probably so you were a year older than I was, and Dan's a year younger than me in school wise. Mm-hmm. So my grade and Dan's grade were kind of the first to commingle amongst rivals.
Yeah.
Just because, we went against each other head to head in the season, and then, the summer comes around and we play Legion ball together. And I'm like, dude, you're pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's interesting looking back on it, because we were best of friends in the summer. And then, once football season came along, we get on the field. It's trash talking, and then
game on,
going at it.
Yeah.
Oh man, that one time I burnt you down the sideline, and I was waving to you as I'm running by. I score a touchdown. You come down to the end zone, give me a couple choice words. And then later in the game, you ended up doing the same thing to me. So it was. And
then we missed an extra point and lose the game.
Yeah,
but it's all good.
Yeah, you guys definitely blew it. But it was great in that aspect. And then Dan hanging out with you guys, and I remember just getting so mad at him. I'm like, how could you hang out with? You're sleeping with the enemy here.
Yeah.
And then it's funny, because it's all come down to this now, where all that stuff's put aside, and got a great friendship now with you, and Dan always has. But yeah, now we hunt together. And
yeah, and I do think the first time that I can remember really hunting with you was the infamous hunt that I know we spoke about in the past on this show, where you shot those two gadwall together, and I just heard the double just ring out across the marsh.
Dude, I couldn't believe it. I mean, that was one shot, two birds. But, like, I don't know. It hasn't happened to me since. I know that, at least not that I can think of. There might have been a situation where I'm shooting into some ducks and someone else is shooting the same ones, and who knows who took which one. But I mean, other than that, it's never happened again.
Yeah, I've had it happen like one time that I can remember on a really tight flock of geese that sort of banked off of a corner and came right in front of us, unintentionally shooting at one. They were just packed in so tight together, getting ready to land. I folded two in the one shot, but oddly enough, I did not capitalize on the moment and scream double.
You missed
at the top of my lungs. Yeah, that's a regret. That's unfortunate.
You gotta be in the moment. I mean, there's no doubt about that. You gotta be ready for it.
There's a lot to be said about being in the moment. We talked about that on the episode that came out last week, and we're actually recording this on Sunday, so that episode's not even out yet, so you don't know what I'm talking about. But we talked about things that we do in the field that wastes our time, and not being in the moment is one of those things. If you're worried about, sometimes I think even like taking photos or trying to video and stuff can take you away from just watching what's going on and sort of experiencing that. So, being in the moment, just having fun is what it's all about. And that was definitely a fun hunt for sure.
Yeah. We slaughtered them that day.
We did.
We had a truckload of them.
Truckload of gadwall and like two blue teal, blue wing teal. I think we killed that morning. Yeah,
that was down in Geneva there. Back in. I'll tell you what, that setup on that property was phenomenal. That was managed by the Game Commission. They came in and put those ponds in and stuff. Mm-hmm. Definitely be interested in trying to figure out some more about that and how to get property hooked up with their knowledge and getting some like small ponds put in. I know we hunted out at Middle Creek, a couple guys and myself. They drew a blind and called me up, invited me. And, I mean, just talk about an ideal situation. I mean, the water's knee deep all the time.
Yeah.
You can walk out, set your decoys. They have the pit blind set up and thousands of ducks all over the place before shooting.
It's funny because, I mean, I'm thinking as you're talking, I'm like, the two things that I hear that I'm thinking in my mind when you're talking about that is a lot of guys have take issue when they engage like a game commission or Ducks Unlimited or something because they want their help, and those organizations are oftentimes willing to help, but they come with restrictions. They want you to do certain things so that they're getting out of the deal what they are trying to accomplish at the same time. And a lot of guys get really turned off by that and kind of like, well, I want you to help me, but then I want you to not tell me how to live my life, when it's done. But I mean, you talk about Middle Creek, and again, I'm kind of jumping back to an episode of recent release about being comfortable. Where you hunt and like how you have to hunt it leads into that comfort. And if you're talking knee deep water and kind of like harder bottom stuff where you're not trudging through mud and you get to a nice blind that's brushed well and you can be comfortable, you're just more likely to spend more time there. And whether you kill more birds or not, like that's going to be an enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's a lot of guys shy away from the state or game commission managed hunts and stuff because, there's extra hoops to jump through to draw them. And sometimes there's costs and all that kind of stuff. But, they can be a really great opportunity that I think a lot of guys may overlook for just the whole, it's going to be too inconvenient to try to do it.
Yeah, that was actually really interesting because they drew a blind, and so you can draw a duck blind or show up and try to get drawn for a goose blind. And only a couple of the duck blinds were on water, and I think there were 4 of us they were allowed to bring to the hunt, the one guy. And, kind of like you said, there's extra hoops. So we had to get there early in the morning, and you're standing around. You have to sign papers and wait for a blind draw. But we had 4 chances. Other guys only had 2 or 1 or whatever.
So wait a minute, you get drawn to be in the drawing? Is that how it works?
So you get drawn, and if you get drawn, you're guaranteed a blind.
Oh, okay. And then it's like just who gets the first pick?
Yeah, well, they assign you to a water blind or a field blind.
Oh.
And we were lucky enough to be drawn for a water blind. And it was a great experience. We killed, out of the 4 of us, we killed 2 spoonies and a goose. Mm-hmm. But the overall experience was just really good. We got to the blind. There were a bunch of geese on the pond that we kicked off before we could see anything.
Yeah.
And then light hit, and there were literally thousands of ducks in the air. I mean, just all over the place. And hardly any of them ever came to our spot, but it was an experience. I mean, it was a lot of fun. I was hunting with Matty Bentz. I know he's a listener, and he's a contributor on the on the Facebook page. He
we just had him on speakerphone in the car yesterday on the way back from the game.
He I'll tell you what, he's a good guy, but the kid is a stone cold killer. I mean, I've seen him make some shots on some ducks and geese that were they're bombs. Yeah. And he, some people you think they're sky busted or something, but he's very consistent in what he does. And he's knocked. I've seen him knock a couple woodies down that I was pretty impressed with, and a mallard one time that was coming off a little creek. But he was with me in that blind. But then, I mean, you also have to deal with shot restrictions. You're only allowed to take 10 shells.
Yep. I love that. I love that rule.
It is, yeah. I mean, I don't really mind it.
Make them count, man.
Yeah. And it prevents you from needing to take extra stuff, like a blind bag full of shotgun shells.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I can throw 10 shells in my pocket and walk in.
Right.
Things like you can minimize stuff. Yeah. And kind of realize you don't need all the as much as you usually take. Yeah. Which half the stuff you don't ever use anyway. Yeah. So some of it's better to be prepared, whatever. But you can definitely learn different things in different places, and I think that's I've written down here, why do we hunt? And a lot of it now. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't really depend on hunting ducks for for eating all the time. No. I mean, they taste good and you can cook them up right, but if I had to live off of the number of ducks I take a year, I wouldn't be able to do it. So a lot of it's just sportsmanship. I mean, it's a sport, having fun, making memories, family traditions, things like that, and that's the making memories part. I think is the most important.
Yeah, I mean, I think about what duck hunting and waterfowl hunting in general has done for me, and most people, especially if you end up moving away from your hometown, from where you grew up, most people, you lose touch with people over time. And, I can probably count, I left for college and I never came back really for any extended period of time back home. And I can probably count on one hand how many guys from high school that I've really maintained good, solid friendships with, that I talk to a lot. And every one of them has that shared common interest of hunting. So, we talk about hunting, we go hunting together. So that's like our thing, and if it wasn't for that, I don't know how if we would still be in contact as much as we are, but it's been great for that. And it gives you a reason to get together a couple times a year. And so, yeah, I mean, when those trips are planned, like when we went to Kansas last year and we're going to Canada this fall and Kansas again. And, I mean, I have high expectations of killing birds on those trips just because where we're going, no pressure, Ben. But, you know, even if we don't kill anything, like to your point, the things that I remember most about Kansas last year are the things that had nothing to do with shooting ducks. Just cutting up, and the people and the friendships and stuff was just a blast.
Yeah, you want to talk about Kansas, man. I mean, that trip was quite the experience, unlike anything I think I could have ever expected from start to finish. I mean, unbelievable. Number one, we get there, you're driving around, the amount of ducks and geese in the air was unreal. Yep. Every little piece of water out there had ducks on it.
Yep.
Then you go out, you eat, you meet the guys, and they're just like you. I mean, that's one cool thing is no matter where you go, everybody's just like you.
I was going to say that, it's like, because on that trip we had, us two and Dan and Van de Kamp, and then we had Adam Peeler from Lifetime Decoys, and Ben and his guides, and then we met up with Alex Langbell, who was hunting with Ben, and kind of overlapped with him a couple days. So that first morning, we were all on the blind together, and it was like we'd been hunting together for years. It's just everyone sort of speaks the language when when you're in a duck blind, which is really cool.
Yeah, and Marshall.
All right, I forgot about Marshall came in. Yeah, he came in town too.
He was there taking pictures.
Yep.
But I mean, even there, that's a learning experience watching him and his photography, and taking thousands of dollars of camera equipment out in the field and getting just dumped on. I mean, the rain out there was crazy, and having him come back and heating up the oven and putting his cameras in the oven, and I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine risking my camera equipment like that.
Yeah.
At least risking his camera equipment. But I do have to bring something up with Peeler, and that was the first morning we wake up. It's unbelievable. It was raining. We were expecting rain the whole time. And early mornings with them, they when you're setting hundreds of decoys, you got to get out there early. Mm-hmm. And Peeler, I didn't know who it was at the time because it was like 3 a.m. And, you hear an alarm go off and someone turns it, they hit the snooze button or turn it off. Someone else's alarm goes off. There goes the snooze button. Okay. Like you could deal with that. And then all of a sudden you hear Linda Ronstadt at the top of her lungs screaming in the song La Charada.
Yeah.
And it was I'm like, okay. Like I could get it. I get it. That's something that'll wake you up. Snooze button would be good right about now. There was no snooze button. It went on for like the next 5 minutes. No one was sleeping through that. That was That was unbelievable.
It became quite the anthem of that trip.
It did become the anthem, and then for him to start playing it in the blind.
Yep. Anytime that we stopped seeing birds, he'd throw that on, and
ducks would show up.
Literally every time, ducks showed up.
So there you go. There's a tip for everybody. If you're
just a tip,
it
runs in the family apparently.
Just the tip of the week. You got no birds in the area. Turn on Linda Ronstadt.
Just let her rip.
They love it.
Yeah, something else.
But no, that was great.
That was a fun trip.
Everything about that was really great. But there, and again, hunting with someone else, different learning experiences. That was actually the first time I ever hunted over socks. Every hunt I've been on growing up, is like, hey, let's buy a trailer and see if we can fill it with
how many full bodies.
With full bodies.
Yep.
And he had dive bombs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they were dude, unbelievable. You can fit 3 dozen dive bombs in a backpack and have an entire spread. You don't, you know, I was just kind of blown away by that.
Yeah, it definitely challenges the way that at least I grew up hunting and sort of thinking. You know, it's always been thought of as silhouettes and socks as like a filler, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what you use to add numbers on the periphery areas, but like, you know, you want full bodies and, you know, near the blinds and in the hole, whatever. And I mean, there was not a full body decoy in that field. And I guess, you know, it's sort of one of those things where if you're going to hunt 80 to 100 dozen decoys, hunting lessers and stuff like that, I mean, you know, little geese, you're gonna wear yourself out trying to run, and not for nothing, but the night before that real banger hunt we had that morning, it rained all night. It light thundered and lightning in the wintertime. It was weird, and the field had standing water in most of it, so you couldn't have physically gotten a vehicle out there to help you unload. So, you know, we use a 4-wheeler on a sled, you know, to get those out there. But I mean, it's as much as out of a necessity at that point as it is as anything. And I mean, the birds didn't seem to care one bit.
Yeah,
you know. So
yeah, but I mean, like all those different experiences, I think it's just huge because you grow up thinking one way, and this is about life in general. You know, you grow up just doing things that you know, and then you go meet new people, do things different, and hey, maybe it's a better way. And then you can bring that back to you and help you out on the daily, or you know, moving out here, I've kind of had to get rid of my truck. You know, that, like there's just no way it would be feasible to travel as much as I do, drive as much as I do, and have a, you know, 3/4 ton truck. So, you know, I hunt out of a car now. So, you know, how many full bodies can you fit in a Honda Accord?
Yeah,
like
right.
you're not going to get that many, but
yeah,
you know, you can find different ways to get a job done.
And it's not just that, you know, it's even if you had a truck, where are you going to keep the trailer? Where are you going to keep all the decoys? I mean, you know, guys that hunt out of a, you know, live in an apartment or, you know, or whatever their situation is, you just don't always have the luxury of having all that kind of room. I remember when I first moved to Virginia, my wife and I were in an apartment, and I always was like, it felt so weird to me because I had to walk out of the apartment with a gun, you know, like cased up or whatever. But people looked at me like I was nuts. And I couldn't imagine walking out with like decoys slung over my, like waders on my, you know, wear my waders out, whatever, you know. I mean, it's just, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do in your situation. And, you know, I want to talk a little bit more about your situation because, like you said, you moved out to where you're at now, and you know, that's a thing that a lot of guys deal with, you know, whether you're coming out of college or you have a career change or, you know, your spouse gets a job and you got to relocate or whatever the case is. One of the most challenging things in all of hunting, I don't care if you're waterfowl hunting, if you're deer hunting, whatever it is, moving to a new area and finding quality places to hunt and quality people to hunt with, because, you know, everybody and their brother can go to the public area and compete with everybody else. But to me, that's a really quick way to get discouraged and to lose touch with, you know, it's easy when you move to a place and you don't have access to a lot of good spots or anything like that. And it's easy for life to get in the way. It's like you wake up and it's like, man, I'm really tired. I got this, that, other thing going on. I'd like to go on the field, but it's like an hour drive to the public ground and I'm going to battle with other people. It's like, you know, that's a quick recipe for a turn the alarm off and go back to bed kind of thing.
Yeah.
So what in your experience helped you kind of get out here and sort of, you know, make it work and sort of find ways to sort of stay in the game?
Yeah, I mean, you guys, the HP group's been great. Meeting people through there. You know, then you start building your group of guys. You know, like, well, hey, you know, I'm going to go here. You want to go with me? Yeah, I'll go. Well, then there's 3 guys in that group. And then, hey, I'm going to go with that guy that day. And then there's 3 guys in that group. So you start building your, you know, a new network. Yeah. But sometimes it's tough to get started. And you know, you guys have kind of created a platform for that, like duckfindersonly.com.
Well, you know what's interesting about our group, I'll say, most historically people would say like, hey, you move to a new area, reach out to your local DU chapter, reach out to your local Delta chapter, whatever the organization is, and just connect with like-minded hunters, which is a good thing to do. But in my experience, rarely will you show up to like a DU meeting for the first time and a guy be like, hey man, good to meet you, Joe. Yeah, I'll take you out to my spot on Saturday morning. We'll go bang them out. Like, no big deal.
Yeah.
The cool thing about our group is because of that common ground that is the podcast that sort of holds everybody together. You see that a lot. People are like, hey, I'm trying to get out or whatever. And they're like, hit me up. I got a spot for you in my blind for opening morning or whatever it is. Like it blows my mind how willingness people are to help. And it's just such a cool thing that our group has really done a nice job of maintaining.
Yeah, because it's a competition. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not easy finding good hunting ground. So when people are open to it, I think it's rare, but fairly easy to find through HP. That, and then you do talk to other people. I'm lucky enough to do what I do and coach baseball, and so I get to talk to a lot of people. And they do a lot of different things. Some guys are, they put down concrete. Some guys are business owners, whatever. But, there's different hunters in different areas. So they, you get hooked up and go out. But the one thing is everyone is different still. I mean, everybody has their own ways of doing it. We had, I went on a goose hunt last year with a group up in Redding. Well, yeah. So I went on a goose hunt with one group, and a couple of the same guys with a different group, we went on a duck hunt. So you get there early for the duck hunt, and those guys are like, they bring rakes out to cover their blinds up, and everything's looking good. They have all full body duck decoys, everything's laid out, and we go out and we had a banger day. Killed some mallards, killed some black ducks. Great hunt. And then you go out with a couple of the same guys with a different group, and some of those guys bring blankets, and they throw some corn stalks on it, and we killed geese. So, everybody has different ways. And again, like a lot of the people I've been hunting with out here use shells still, which shells they're not like high dollar shells either. Yeah. They're just, hey, throw as many decoys out and see what we can draw in.
Yeah. Shells are kind of the lost component of all this. And you tend to sort of hear people talk about using them on ice and sleeper, shells and stuff like that. But when I was getting started, shells was kind of the jam for me, I mean, I could stack them up pretty easily, and, I used them a lot, as I was trying to, I never really got a big full body spread. And part of it was because, I had some shells that I could use that sort of fit that, that filler role for me. So, I mean, it is one thing to be aware of that when you integrate with another group, you got to be sensitive and aware that like, they probably got a way that they do things, and you don't want to be that guy that shows up the first time and tries to tell them how to hunt, right? I mean, because that's probably a pretty quick reason to not get invited back for a second hunt.
Yeah,
but just trying to fit in and have a good time and make friendships is a lot easier to do, and just let the other stuff, even if it's something. I've definitely been on hunts where I've bit my tongue and I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't do it this way, but hey, I'm just gonna have fun, and
Yeah, you get, you can, if you have your eyes open, I think you learn your spot rather quickly to hunting with new people. Like, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to bring my call out. Or, you know what? I'm going to put my call away. Whatever it is,
right.
These guys are better. They know more than me. Hey, these guys could probably use my help, and, as long as you keep your eyes open and are pretty good at self-evaluating, you can fit in and just kind of not overstep your bounds and be an asset more than anything. Like, hey, you know what? You call a lot better than I do, but I can carry some decoys, or I could,
I mean,
I'm going to go do my part.
That's a huge thing. It's just, whatever it is that you bring to the table, be value added to the group. Whether that's you bring coffee and donuts every morning, or you bring a trailer full of decoys, or you bring calling skills, or whatever it is, a dog, whatever it is that you have, make sure that it's value, and you don't want to be anything that kind of pulls away from the current setup and all that kind of stuff. So, it's hard. That's just the bottom line is it's hard, and you may only get a few opportunities to sort of take advantage of it. So you don't want to screw that up. And, it's nice if you've got a starting off point, where it's like, hey, we met through the HP group or whatever, that certainly helps. One of my best hunting buddies I met on Facebook, somehow we got lined up, and I just clicked on his profile and saw he was local, and we messaged each other, and it was like, you want to hunt? And I was like, kind of nervous. I'm like, I do, but I don't know you at all. And my wife's like, if you don't show up after 1:00, I'm going to call the police. Cause you're going to hunt with dudes with guns that you don't know. And all something like, yeah, I get it. And it turns out, we had a ton in common, and we hunted a ton together over the last 4 or 5 years. So, it's just one of those things where you got to be open-minded and just kind of go with it. And while you show up day one and you're like, this isn't how I hunt, this isn't how I do it, by 2 weeks after that, it's pretty good. We're having fun, we're having success. It's all good.
Yeah, it's kind of wild in a crazy world that half the country's complaining about guns. You have a bunch of people that can get together, bring as many guns as they want, and go out and have a fun time. It's just a great situation and great community to be a part of, and pretty amazing. For the most part, everybody's sane.
Definitely lots of fun.
Yeah. But
well, I know we've got a tournament coming up here that we got to get on the road for here shortly. But I wanted to see if you had anything else on your list that you thought we could hit on as we wrap it up here. Dan's at the beach this week, so it's just going to be
living the rough life.
Yeah, I think he packed up the van, headed south for the week, and they can do a little beach time. So figured we'd let him off the hook this week and not bother him while he's down there.
Yeah, I was pretty excited to get on here after listening to that duck depression episode. I was like, wow, man, you guys kind of made me hurt inside.
Yeah.
I was like, this really got me down. I wanted to come on here and just kind of talk it back up. We're like a month away.
Yeah, I mean we're like 5 Saturdays away from hunting, or maybe not even that many now. But I think the good thing about this time of year is most guys, like for yourself, you're busy this time of year. I mean, you're on the road. You guys are playing a ton. Most guys, at least that I know, if they can, they try to stack up work in the summertime. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that helps take their mind off it, but you stay busy and sort of drive towards the idea that I'm busy now so that I can be a little less busy when I'm trying to get out in the field and stuff.
Right.
So keeping that perspective is good, but there becomes that point where it's just like you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you just want to go outside and hunt, and you go outside and it's like 100 degrees, you can't breathe, and you're just like, golly, man, it's gotta quit sometime.
I know, I'm aching for some colder weather. We had
that's the earliest cold front that I've heard of. Called for. It's July 28th right now. You're calling for cold fronts.
Yeah, I am. Bring them down.
Post it on the DU migration app. That usually helps. That's what I've heard.
Somebody bring it. But yeah, man, it's I don't know. It's coming up. We're I'm seeing a lot of ducks flying around our area.
Now, is your area going to be affected by the Atlantic Flyway changes?
To be honest, I don't know. I haven't even looked into it.
Yeah,
And we're kind of like in that, well, right where I am, I'm right on the border for like the management,
Right.
Like kind of similar to Pine Tuning and Middle Creek. Those are
Yeah.
Different areas anyway. So,
those are going to hold a certain level of birds all year round.
Yeah.
So you're going to see.
Yeah, and then like if I go hunt with one group, the laws are different than if I head west a little bit and hunt with a different group. So, it's
amazing too because we talked about these regulations changing, and every state's so different. I've lived in Virginia for a while now, and when I come back to PA, it almost makes me feel like a foreigner. Like I'm like I don't remember the laws here. Like I don't remember how they work.
Right.
And all that kind of stuff. So it's always one of those things where, especially when I was deer hunting and turkey hunting, I didn't really buzz around to different states. I just kind of hunted local. But now with waterfowl, I'm hunting all over the place, and this year I'll be hunting internationally, up in Canada for the first time. So knowing those regulations and what you can and can't do and all that kind of stuff it's definitely stressful. It's a lot to take on, and something we've talked about a lot with waterfowl hunting in general. It seems to be a little heavier lift than some other hunts you can do.
Yeah. What if? What would you say your best hunt has been? Like you've been everywhere. What's your best hunt been?
Oh,
put you on the spot.
I mean, just as far as like sheer number of birds and that kind of thing, or I mean, I'll go two ways with that. So they were both last year. The hunt out in Kansas, just for sheer volume of birds, was the most birds I've ever seen in one hunt.
Mm-hmm.
That ranks right up there with a couple years ago. There was a morning where Dan and Trav and his dad and I were down on the Eastern Shore, and the night before, 2 days before the hunt, we were talking to the guy, and he's like, "Guys, we don't have ducks." He's like, "We can shoot geese, but we just don't have ducks." And we're like, "Oh, okay, cool, that's fine." And it was only 2 bird limit, so I was like, "Okay, well, we're just going to hunt, be buddies, whatever." The night before, we called to check in, and he goes, "Boys, we got ducks." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Oh yeah, they got here last night." So we hunted that next morning, and I watched probably 10,000 canvasbacks come off the Susquehanna Flats, and it was awesome. Just seeing knots of 75 and 100 cans at a time coming in. You could just see the sun on their wings, and just not a hen in the group, just all white. Just wild stuff. Just very, very cool hunt. So those are 2 that really sort of resonate in my mind for just the volume of birds and things like that. And but then last fall, getting to hunt with my son and getting him out for the first time and seeing him chase birds around and getting to share that with Dan and stuff was a cool experience too. So for different reasons, but all ones that are very memorable. How about you?
I mean, for me, the Kansas was hands down the best. Like I know I've been talking to a lot of people, just be like, hey, if you ever get an opportunity to head out to the Midwest and go see Ben out there, I mean, just the phone calls the nights before, hey, we got this many geese or this many ducks. What do you want to do?
Yep.
Like, hey, we got 10,000 geese or 3,000 ducks. What do you want to do? And then I came back and, I get a phone call. Hey, I got like 25 mallards in this hole.
Or I got a hunker, like a 60. I got like a 60 feet hunker.
I'm really excited. I got 25 mallards in this hole.
Yeah.
Let's go get them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And it was like back to reality.
Yeah. I mean,
that's 25 mallards in one spot here is unbelievable.
You're hunting that, no doubt. You're hunting that.
But like, just the comparison. What an experience that whole trip was, and like you said, hanging out with some of those guys. Peeler was a cool guy to hang out with. I didn't know how to take him when he walked in. He's like a monster.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
He's huge. And then soft spoken and just a great guy. Other than his wake up calls.
he's a busy guy these days with the new mallard release there with Lifetime. So those guys are staying busy, and they're going to be on the road this summer, hitting the shows here this summer. So if you're in those areas, you can check them out. And
those look amazing. Have you got to see them?
Yeah, I've got some.
You got some?
Yeah.
I want to know what they sound like when they're over your shoulder.
They sound like if you had a pair of Crocs hitting them together. That's what they sound like.
Really?
Same material.
It's not like bang, bang, bang in your ear as everything's going. Like,
nope, not at all.
Like that's it's always been one of my pet peeves. I think it comes from like deer hunting.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I got to be somewhat quiet when I'm hunting. And, it's just one of those things. I don't know. I just always try to feel
try
quiet.
To be quiet. Yeah, no, they definitely help you do that. So, I think a lot of guys are going to like those and what they offer. But, well, I think it's probably time for us to wrap up. We got some of the bombers showing up here at the house, and we're going to get on the road and go win a tournament. But I appreciate you spending some time,
absolutely
chatting on the show, and hopefully we'll be able to get together. I want to get up this way this fall and get in the blind with you guys up this way, and
there's
get after it. Get on some 25 mallard shoots into it.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Talking with Maddie yesterday, and he said it looks like a pretty good crop of woodies popping up in the one spot he's taken me before. That was a really good local hunt that we went on. It was there's a good story there. We he
usually is.
He takes this one. He takes this wood duck. It's pretty high, and he shoots. And I could see it kind of fold and go down towards this one tree. So I was like, okay, I got it marked. I start walking back there, and it's thick. There's no way you're going to find it without a dog. So I'm walking back, and I get to the tree. I'm looking around the bottom of the tree, and here it had landed in the top of the tree, and it was just sitting there. Well, when I got close, it tried to fly and fell out of the tree. so I went back, found it, brought it back. It died on impact, so I'm bringing it back.
Died on impact.
It did. So I'm bringing it back. And he's like, "You found that? How'd you find it?" Like, there's no way you find it. I was like, "Dude, I'm like a Labrador out here. I can find just about anything." So it wasn't until days later I shared the actual story. Like, it literally fell out of the tree as I was walking back. So
that's good to know. So next time we're hunting and a couple birds hit the water, I'll be like, "Joe, back, back." You can
blow your whistle at me.
Yeah, you can pick them up for us. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you again spending some time, and probably about time we go win this championship. I think.
Yeah, we gotta go get some dubs here for sure.
All right, man. Well, till this fall, maybe we get you back on the program here when we're up here hunting and get a little more story time with Joe.
Sounds good, man.
All right. Well, it's always fun having Joe on the show. And, last time when he was on the program with Dan, it was one of our actually most popular episodes. A lot of people really enjoyed sort of hearing those stories and stuff like that. So it's always fun to catch up with Joe and have him on the show. And, right after we recorded that, we took his team, the Keystone State Bombers, and went to the championship game of that tournament. And unfortunately, lost in that championship game. But it was a great weekend all around. So always good stuff and always a good time to be able to catch up with Joe. That's pretty much going to do it for this week's episode. Hopefully, Dan will be back with us next weekend. For next episode, I've got some travel going on as well, so we're still working out the timeline there. So hopefully, it'll be both of us next week. But otherwise, we'll have a good quality program coming to you. The season's getting super close, so it's really about that time where we are all kind of shifting gears and sort of bearing down. And we have a lot of really great guests lined up kind of going into the fall here and all that sort of stuff. So August is typically the month that sort of we start seeing the ramp up of everyone's kind of, getting in the groove, and sort of summer's winding down and they're really shifting their focus to summer. So that's an exciting time of year for us, and looking forward to delivering some great content, here in the next couple weeks and months as the season gets rolling. So, and before we check out for this week, I do want to take a minute just to thank the companies that support this program: Lifetime Decoys, Gunner Kennels, Eukanuba, Lucky Duck, and Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy, the world's most comprehensive online gun dog training resource. They've got over 160 instructional videos. It includes everything you need to take a 7-week-old puppy to a finished gun dog. Visit them at cornerstonegundogacademy.com, sign up for the free preview module, and begin your training journey today. Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy, the most advanced gun dog training resource on the web. All right, that does it for episode 146. Thanks again to Dan's brother Joe for joining me on the show this week and talking a little hunting. And if you're new to the show and you're joining us for the first time, make sure you head over to hpoutdoors.com, where you can head over to iTunes and catch up on all the past episodes and really just get yourself up to speed on all the things that we've covered over the last almost 5 years now of the program. While you're there, we'd love a 5-star rating and review. It helps other hunters just like you find this show. So until next week, for Dan, I'm Josh. Take care.